with the vision bright, skills to empower futures lie. In Kenya schools we're on the rise, our dream takes flight to new heights. Oh, we're climbing step by step, building future strong and set. CBT, changing lives anew. In CBT, watch us break through.
I'll go through the Java keywords. You'll notice that I have not listed them in alphabetical order. I have deviated from what has been always the norm, that when you are covering Java keywords, you see all of them written in alphabetical order from the first to the last, and there are around 50 of them. For me, I have felt that if you solve a problem using the same methods that you have used in the past, you don't expect different results. And it's for that reason I will explain why I have not used the alphabetical order. In my list, I start with the first keyword, which is Boolean. And Boolean is a keyword in Java which defines a variable type that can hold only true or false values. It defines a variable type that can hold only true or false values. Then we have the next keyword, which is byte, and byte defines a variable type that holds an 8-bit signed integer value which range between -128 to 127. The next keyword that we have is char. Char defines a variable type for a 16-bit Unicode character. Then the next keyword we have is float. And then float defines a variable type for about a 2-bit single precision floating point number. Then we have int. Int is another keyword which is used in Java, which defines a variable type for about a 2-bit signed integer value. Then we have long. We have long. Now with long, it defines a variable type for a 64-bit signed integer value. Then we have double. Double defines a variable type that holds a 64-bit double precision floating point number. On the same color, you notice I end with short. It defines a variable type for a 16-bit signed integer value. Come to the reason why I have grouped them together and why they are having the same color. All these keywords which I have started with are used when we are describing data types in Java programming. I move on to another grouping. In this part, it may not be so specific, but I've tried to group some of those keywords that are likely to appear in some of the areas like class, object, and so on. I start with the keyword class, and it is used to define a class, which is a blueprint for creating objects in Java. Then we have the keyword enum, which is used to define an enumerated type, which is a special class that represents a group of constants. Then we move on to another keyword which is known as extends. It indicates that a class is inheriting from a superclass, allowing access to the superclass's fields and methods. We shall continue knowing more about these when we look at inheritance. So it is about classes, but we shall look at its application more in inheritance. Then we have the keyword implement. This keyword features when you are having classes and interfaces, and it specifies that a class is implementing an interface, meaning the class must provide implementations for the interface's methods. So when we are using the keyword implements, mostly it will feature when we are going to look at classes versus interfaces. Then we have the keyword new. The keyword new creates a new instance of a class or object in memory. And then we have the keyword static. Static specifies that a class member, variable, or method belongs to the class. Okay? Then we have the super keyword, which refers to the superclass or parent class of the current object, used to access methods and fields from the parent class. I have promised that during our lesson on inheritance in Java, we shall look at more of this. Super is giving a parent class. We call it superclass. We may also call it a base class. And of course, during that time, we shall also look at what we call the child class, the subclass, or derived class. Then we move on to the next keyword, which is this. This refers to the current instance of the class. It is often used to differentiate between instance variables and parameters with the same name. Then we have the next keyword, which is package. Package defines a namespace for organizing classes and interfaces. It is also used to group related classes and avoid name conflicts. The next keyword that we look at is abstract. The keyword abstract is used to declare an abstract class or an abstract method. An abstract class cannot be instantiated, and abstract methods must be implemented by subclasses. Then we have the keyword import. The keyword import allows importing other classes or entire packages into the current file to use their functionality. In other words, you don't have to rewrite the code from scratch. You can just bring in those classes or packages and use the code for further development of the program. Then the other keyword we have is instance of. And this one tests whether an object is an instance of a specific class or interface. Then remember, I mentioned the keyword interface when I was talking about implement. We said classes and interfaces, when you come to implementing, you'll find that together. Now, what is interface? Interface defines an interface which is a contract that classes must follow by implementing its methods. Then we have the, when we come to this, then allow me to say that I've tried to group these keywords mainly based on where they are used. You look at these keywords, you see they are featuring either when you are talking about methods, or you are talking about classes, or you are talking about interfaces, or you are talking about inheritance, which we shall learn later on. We go to the next set of keywords. These ones I've painted them in yellow, and of course I've done this for a reason. We have the keyword private. These mostly we call them access specifiers, access specifiers or access modifiers. The first keyword is private, and it specifies that a class member, variable or method is accessible only within the same class. Then we have the keyword protected. Protected specifies that a class member is accessible within the same package and by subclasses. The next keyword is public. It specifies that a class member is accessible from any other class. So within that code, any other class can access a member which is declared as public. Then we have the keyword default, which specifies the default case in a switch statement when none of the cases match. You realize this one I did not paint it yellow because it might not come out very nicely when we use it, because this is a keyword that may apply in many areas. But of essence, I want every student who is doing the CBET course to understand that the three main access specifiers are private, protected, and public. Then we go now to another special category of keywords which I have painted blue. If you look at them and you have gone through a Java class, you'll notice why I have painted them blue. But for those who have not yet gone through that, I will explain for the purpose of covering that later. In Java, we have something we call control statements. When we are executing programs, we execute programs either sequentially, or we may have to make choices where we select, or we may have an event which is being repeated, what we call iteration or loop. And for this purpose, these keywords are mainly used on control statements in Java. The first keyword I've given here is do. It is used in a do-while loop to execute a block of code at least once before checking the condition. Then the next keyword is else. It defines the block of code that will be executed if the condition in an if statement is false. The next keyword is while. The keyword while defines a loop that continues as long as a specified condition is true. Then we have the keyword switch, which defines a multi-way branch statement that executes a block of code based on the value of a variable. Then we have the keyword break, which exits from a loop or switch statement immediately, transferring control to the next statement following the loop switch. Then the next keyword is case. Case defines a branch in a switch statement to compare a variable with multiple possible values. Then we have the keyword if. The keyword if defines a conditional statement that executes a block of code if a condition is true. And then we have the keyword for, which is used to initiate a for loop, which repeats a block of code a specific number of times based on a condition. And lastly, in that category, we have the keyword continue, which skips the current iteration of a loop and continues with the next iteration.
Learning what's new with open minds, we engage and explore. Look or show, we inform. In wisdom we store. Through words we teach, and insights we proclaim. Together we grow, seeking knowledge flame. Look or show, we share lessons in the air. Learning what's new with open minds.